Now. Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Michele Burklund. I'm the Chief Science Officer here at Puriya, and this is our Living Well series where we interview amazing people and give you the tools and foundation to live a healthy life. And this week we have Dr. Csilla Veress with us. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
So before we jump in and get to a lot of the questions on fasting and detoxification and everything, I'm going to read your background for our viewers. So Dr. Csilla Veress, ND, LAC, is a primary care doctor at True North Health Center in Santa Rosa, California. Dr. Veress is a graduate from Rutgers University with a degree in biology and obtained her medical degree from Bastyr University, where she also finished her master's in acupuncture and oriental medicine. The focus of her practice and outreach is to educate and inspire individuals to achieve optimal health through nutrition and lifestyle medicine. She lectures at True North Health and in the community on the impact of whole food, plant-based nutrition, water fasting, and lifestyle modification in preventing and treating chronic illness. She's a contributing writer for NPLEX, helping elevate excellence with ND board examinations. She also has written several articles for Health Science magazine and has been featured on various podcasts in the whole foods, plant-based nutrition communities. So thank you so much for taking the time to discuss all of these things. I think a lot of people have questions just on fasting, detoxification, and everything. And before we really get into these questions, I want to hear more about how you found this medicine, your passion, and your story of how you became a naturopathic doctor.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was already on the road to medicine. So in my college years, I was pre-med. And I love the fact that I went to Rutgers because they had this amazing kind of program where they allowed you to go into the hospital system. We had a really prolific actually hospital system down in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and we were able to do volunteer. And so when I was in the hospital system, it was interesting. You know, I was seeing people leave getting sicker. You know, I was seeing doctors and nurses, and they didn't seem healthy. They didn't seem happy either. You know, in the system, it wasn't exactly what I was envisioning. My medical training or even my medical path to be. And so I realized that was maybe not the right path for me. I actually did graduate with biology and psychology minor, but I decided I got this really amazing internship in Australia to do PR and marketing. And so, so I went over there and I absolutely fell in love with with Australia. And I actually did fall in love with marketing as well. And so when I came back to the United States, I got a job in Manhattan, and I did that for 10 years. And interestingly enough, as I was kind of gaining speed in this profession, I was losing myself in one aspect. But when I was there as well, I started just really exploring what it was that I really wanted to do, and I really do feel like I come from like a family of healers. It was just really interesting. And I think that's why also when I was working in the hospital system, it didn't jive with what I thought medicine or the medicine I wanted to do was. And so when I was in New York City, I actually did yoga. I got, Pilates certified. I did actually a nutritional course as well. So I was finding all these little pieces that really, really spoke to me, but I hit a wall with my profession, and I lost my soul. I really did. And so I decided I needed to leave my job. I left Manhattan. And when I, was trying to search for what my next career path was, I always had really deep, even since I was a child, my mom said, I had this deep, just environmental spirit. And so I was looking actually more in sustainability type courses, like sustainability entrepreneurship in Colorado. And I don't know how it happened, but I landed on Bastyr, which was the medical school that I went to website. And it spoke to me, it spoke to me. When I went there, it was just everything that they offered and everything that they stood for, their mission, their values was exactly the medicine that I wanted to do. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I was searching for back in my 20s. This is now in my 30s. And then interestingly enough, I mean, I'm so happy with my education. I feel like, it's really strongly evidence-based, which is why I picked Bastyr as well. But then afterwards, I just serendipitously, my ex-husband got a job in Calistoga, which is 20 minutes from Santa Rosa. I was going to the East Coast for residency, and I found True North. And I stayed, and it has been the most amazing, not only expression of the medicine that I want to do, but it has absolutely built upon what I learned at Bastyr as well. And it really allowed me to find my medicine, and that is really to be this ambassador to, helping and empowering people to really acknowledge that we have this self-inherent healing ability, within the body if we give it the right tools, right? And so that's why most of my practice is foundations of health and nutrition-based medicine. And then, of course, the amazing, like, just healing power of just water fasting. And because I see miracles every single day. So it's kind of come full circle for me, where
Yeah.
I've now, like, my true passion. So yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, because it's such an intense route that you went from very conventional and seeing everything in the hospitals.
Absolutely, yeah. And thankfully, I think I had to do that in order to have found exactly what it is that I wanted to do. So
yeah, all of that helps, because it helps you see what you want and what you don't want, and then and then where you end up. So tell us more about True North, like what you do there, what kind of facility it is, because I think a lot of people don't completely understand that places like this exist, or what you guys really do there too.
Yeah, so True North Health is an inpatient clinic. So what that means is that we actually specialize in taking patients, and they stay at True North. We can see them anywhere from 30 to months and months. We've had patients that have stayed there actually for years as well, if they really had to go through quite a big rehabilitation of their health. More commonly, I would say most people stay from anywhere from 3 weeks to a month. That's pretty much average. And what we do is we really specialize in nutrition-based medicine. So we specialize in exclusively whole food, plant-based, no salt, no sugar, no oil food. And that is the premise of how we start to really affect change in a person's lifestyle and a person's health. And then, of course, our specialty is water fasting. So we take individuals on a medically supervised water fast, anywhere from we've done as short as 3 days, but up to 41 days of water only. So we used to be the only clinic in the United States that did this, and Dr. Goldhammer and his wife started around the 1980s. But actually, because we are really, like, were for such a long time the only medically supervised water fasting clinic, we have this amazing internship program where we see medical professionals around the world, like literally around the world, come, and we have nurses, DOs, MDs, NDs, PAs, all different types in the healthcare field, come, and they actually do their training, and they can train on this lifestyle approach, and then they can get certification as well. So now actually there's a couple of smaller clinics, but but everybody has been trained at True North and has kind of gone off and started their own little clinic. So we have one in Southern California, there's one in Ohio, there's one in Florida, I believe, as well. So those are the main ones that actually, and Puerto Rico actually is the other one that has done really, really extensive proper training at True North, and they've kind of done an offshoot of what we do. So
that's exciting. It's exciting. It's expanding, and
it's so exciting, especially now, because we are one of our main focuses is research. So we see subjectively and with certain types of testing and imaging, people are getting better. People are improving, but now it's time to actually do the research and really be able to show the medical community that, listen, even though we're seeing these results, our patients are seeing these results, let's really, do quantifiable measurements of this and actually bring it into like the medical community in that way. So it's really exciting. So as the research builds, I'm really excited that there's going to be much more clinics that are going to be able to support, I think, this type of modality, which is going to probably become really, really important as we move into the future. So.
Right. I mean, to me, it's not even like a question, but I think we need that science, and we need to be able to prove that, hey, diet and lifestyle can have profound effects on everything. And so getting that science there will really push the entire medical community to move in that direction.
Yeah.
So tell us why some people would come to True North, like some specific conditions that you see there. Like, what can it range from of the type of people you see in there? Because I'm sure it's a lot different too. I'm sure you get quite a bit of different people.
Well, it's exciting. I think this is fascinating. And I've been there for over 5 years now, which I can't believe. I
know.
And it's fascinating to me to even see the changes within such a small amount of time. I can't even imagine what Alan has seen since the 1980s, but really when I first got in there, we saw a lot of diabetes, a lot of hypertension. So a lot of, I would say the king's diseases, where, it's from, having this overabundance of food and our lifestyles of like drinking, burning the candle at both ends, those types of things. I saw a lot of autoimmune. We still see quite a bit of autoimmune. I would say if I had to even say, do I have a specialty, that's probably where I tend to, because we see such a large number of individuals with all different kinds, like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, ulcerative colitis, interstitial cystitis. So a lot of those different types of conditions. We see a lot of women's health as well. So a lot of endometriosis, a lot of uterine fibroids. And nowadays, the transition has been, and it's now more, we see a lot of rare cases. So a lot of times, people have had just a full workup from MDs to functional doctors to specialists around the world, and they've tried everything. Like they literally have tried everything, and so they're searching and they're trying to find what else is out there, and so then they're like, okay, let's try a water fast. So we see that nowadays much more. And then interestingly enough, we actually are seeing a lot of people just want to do preventative health, which is music to my soul. Like, it's so we have people coming in and being like, I'm really okay, and they really are. They really have no symptoms, nothing, and they're just like, I just kind of want to do this yearly thing of really trying to protect myself the best in the world that we live in, and I love that. So it's really transition. We still see quite a bit of even cardiovascular disease and diabetes and hypertension, but we're starting to see much more, I would say, rare and unusual cases. So.
Right. So definitely a little bit of everything for sure in there. And yeah, I think when people know this more as an option, then they find it later on too. So getting all of those different groups of people together. So what I want to ask you too is, when people are thinking about starting a water fasting, it can feel really overwhelming or scary, just the idea of it, or the thoughts of, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do? So how do you help prepare the patients, like on a mind for like the psychology, their bodies? How do you help them kind of transition into this too? Because I think a lot of people love the idea, but then it can be scary or overwhelming too.
Yeah. One of the things I have to say I love about working at True North is usually, probably I would say 95, 96% of the patients, if they have found us, right? We don't have, it's one of our really core, I would say, values, is the fact that, if you don't want to be here and you don't want to do this, then nobody can force you to do that, And so one of the beauties of working here is that you have pretty amazing people that are so committed to their health that they are just ready to go. So I think while you are absolutely right, like the mental emotional sphere, I think is probably one of the hardest to wrap somebody's head around. Water fasting, if they're not ready for it, they're not ready for it, and that's something that they have to really be like, this is something that I want to do because I believe in it. I've had enough, research in it. I've looked into this, especially also with whole food plant-based diet. I mean, this is actually the harder route, right? I mean, it's simple, but it's not easy because of the fact that we live in a society that is really much more higher force interventions, like, right? Like, so something is, let's just give a pill. Let's just even functional, even functional medicine, these days, or even a lot of our profession, right? Like, I mean, we're going right towards botanicals, or we're going right towards supplements, and sometimes they're necessary. I mean, they're really necessary, but they're also easier, right, than looking at your lifestyle, looking at your diet and being like, okay, I am just going to do an overhaul on this, and so I see a lot of patients that are really motivated. What we do need to do, though, is get people more physically ready for a water fast, because it really is probably one of the most intense experiences that somebody can go through. It really is, and that's mind, body, soul. The number of people that said, I kind of expected some of the symptoms or some of the side effects to come up with the detoxing physically, but a lot of people at the end were like, wow, that was probably one of the most mentally, emotionally powerful things I've ever done in my life too. So there is this whole entire beautiful mind, body, soul kind of transformation that people go through. Physically, what we do to prep people is we actually, Dr. Goldhammer has a 15-minute consultation with them. So kind of starts the process of talking to them about medications, about, what is expected, whether or not they're actually even candidates for water fasting or True North, if we really feel that we can help somebody. And we do turn people away. I mean, it really is such a very specific modality that if it's not right for a person right then and there, that's something that we absolutely would let them know about. And then now, because we're so busy, we're actually booking around 3 to 4 months out, which is so exciting. A lot of times I'm the next kind of iteration where I can speak to somebody and start really helping them change over their diet. I have this little analogy of what we do in the real world, just so you can get a sense of it.
Yeah, I love that.
Is we kind of help people get into more whole food plant-based, and then we kind of ease them into water fasting. But it's kind of like running a marathon race, right? So when you're running a marathon race, you have basically the walkers, you have the joggers, and you have those sprinters that just go all, right? And everybody's going to finish the race. It's just really about the training you need, like how hard it's going to be, right? Like during the race, how much in pain you're probably going to be after the race, maybe. And then what you need to really do during it as well. And so I always akin it to that, because, water fasting is like those sprinters. You have to train. You have to train so you don't get hurt. You have to be really mindful of your body. You really have to be really mindful during that, before, after, during. Juice is like your joggers, where similarly, if you're jogging a marathon for 26 miles, that could be painful, if you're not kind of prepping for that. And then whole food, plant-based, no salt, sugar, and oil is basically where I put the fast walkers. We see people in the vegan community, right, come in and they are detoxing, because once you get salt, sugar, and oil out, the body can really go through these different kinds of transformations just with that small amount of change, so that's how we prep people. And we really, and I'm able to kind of talk to people if they aren't ready. We can really talk through as well, what they might need mentally, emotionally, and physically to get there. So
I think that's great. I think that's great that you guys offer so much support through all of that too. And there's so much processes, from just starting with plant-based to full water fasting. And I like how they have all those choices too. Like, you meet them where they're at and help them get there too.
it's important to meet people where they're
Yes, definitely. So tell us a little bit more about what you guys call the dietary pleasure trap and how fasting can help break people free of this. Because you mentioned it a little bit, I think, before with like the King's diseases and this and that, but let's get into like more detail about what this is and how people get into this trap and how you guys can help.
Yeah. So the pleasure trap that we talk about are the Dr. Goldhammer and actually Doug Lisle is a psychologist that really does evolutionary psychology, and it backs up into, you know, when we look at our evolution, you know, we are pleasure seeking, you know, we try to avoid pain, and we try to use the least amount of energy, right? Like we're energy conserving beings, and that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Our bodies are super, super brilliant. And so when we look at nature as it has it, and when you look at just natural whole foods, plant-based as they are, they provide us with so much of the vitamins, the minerals, everything, you know, the sugars we need, so the carbohydrates, the proteins, the fats, everything, but in a way that is really just super supportive for our entire, not only physicality, but also how our brain works and how we need to make neurotransmitters and how we think and how we process things. The idea behind the pleasure trap is that when we started to kind of become more industrialized, and when we started to bring in foods that are super, super, super concentrated. So this, I'm talking about, like, you know, instead of doing like beautiful avocados and nuts that have natural sources of fat, but all these other kinds of different kinds of vitamins and minerals, you start to concentrate oils, right? Or you take, instead of having this beautiful piece of fruit that has natural sugars in it, but it has phytonutrients, it has fiber, it has all this amazing stuff, we start to condense it out down to, you know, taking like a sugar cane and making a white substance, right? That is like 10 times the amount of glucose, you know, that you would have, you know, in a piece of fruit. And so and salt is the same way, right? We have salt, we have sodium is in most foods, but then we kind of condense it down into white powder substance. So the idea is that, you know, these substances, while, you know, we need all of that, right? We need sugar, we need salt, we need fats. That's not the concern. It's when we get it into these concentrated forms, and when we actually give it like a drug. Like, I mean, when we look at how much society is eating of these different foods, you are actually driving different types of neuronal pathways in your brain that remember, we're pleasure seeking. We want to have these pleasures, and we want to avoid pain, and we want to do it, right, in the least amount of caloric output, right? Or we want to save energy. So if you get this huge rush, right, from whatever it is, like a Snickers bar, let's just put it out there. We'll just combine all three of those, right? You know, your body is going to say, wow, this is amazing, right? This is, and you're going to actually spike certain neuronal pathways, which are then going to actually, you're going to want more of that. And so this is where that pleasure trap comes into play, is the fact that our bodies, because of how we evolve, will absolutely be much more kind of driven by these really, really just more concentrated foods in society. Once you get rid of this is why we do no salt, sugar, and oil. Once you get rid of that, once you're eating really whole food, plant-based as it is in nature, you stop craving those foods. You really do. You stop craving the foods. You start to notice like these beautiful health and healing effects of this amazing diet when it's done right, you know, when it's not too raw, when it's not too overcooked, like when you have a right balance of everything, you start to notice the amazing effects of it. So, and water fasting, what it does is basically, when you we actually just did a study, so we're going to come out with the results, but we know this just from our subjective kind of intake from patients. But when you go into a water fasting, there is a taste adaptation that happens. So individuals that are stuck in this process of being like, I can't not have sugar, I need sugar, I need salt in my food. how do you even taste food without having it, be salted? When you get into a water fast, because there's taste adaptation, because there's neural adaptation of your taste buds, you come out of a water fast, and food, whole food, plant-based, without the salt, sugar, and oil, is actually then the flavors are then heightened so that people aren't craving that in the end. So
I think that's great. That's also the hardest part, is breaking that, getting to the point and being like having that support to do that, because it's so addicting and it's so easy in society to just grab something on the go or grab something pre-made and all of these things. Yeah, it makes it harder to eat the most simple way, the way that we're supposed to.
Absolutely.
For sure.
People don't, I think a lot of us want to believe, even like at salad bars, right, that they don't salt the lettuce, or they don't salt certain things, but they do. Like even at restaurants, people are really shocked to find they're gonna salt, even if you ask for no dressing, they could salt like the lettuce and like the salad because they want it to taste good. Of course they do, so so it's pretty much very ubiquitous in our society these days.
Yeah, I like that. I want to talk more too about the science behind it. So can you explain to our viewers in a general way what happens to the body during fasting?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, the body is absolutely brilliant. I love it. Physiologically, what happens is that, as you go through and as you kind of eat the last meal that you have, your body starts to transition, and it starts to really, and while you're eating and while you're using the last little bit of food, which is around 4 to 6 hours after the last meal, you're utilizing that glucose, or you're going to store it. If there's too much glucose, you're going to store it then. But as you start to go into a fast, right, and as longer as you stop eating, what the body starts to recognize is that we're not getting as much like easier sources of glucose in the system. So then it starts basically talking to the liver and saying, hey, we have all this storage glucose. Can we start breaking that down? So that then you go into this amazing ability to just break down stored glucose molecules. After that, your body transitions into something called gluconeogenesis, where the body is actually going to use, I know this is for all you out there that want this biochemistry lesson over here. But so it goes into gluconeogenesis, which is basically, the body, like I said, the body is so brilliant. It's going to say, listen, we're not getting the natural sources of how we really like to run our energy, our energy powerhouses, which are our mitochondria. So let's actually use different molecules. We'll use amino acids, right? We'll use the glycerol from the fatty acids. So it starts to use all these different molecules in a process called gluconeogenesis. And it does that up to around 5 days, where around 12 hours where it starts, your body is going to be using a lot more ketones, and around day 3, day 4, it's actually going to start to transition where it's more using ketones. So ketones are going to be fatty acids, so it's your fat molecules that are going to be broken down into something called ketone acid bodies. Most cells in your body can actually use ketone acid bodies as a fuel source. So it can be shuttled into the mitochondria, which is our powerhouses, which is our powerhouses of the cells that make energy, and can actually be then converted to energy through those ketones. There's a few cells, like perfect examples, red blood cells don't use, they don't have mitochondria, so they don't use the ketones. And so glucose is necessary in the system. So there's always going to be a little bit of gluconeogenesis happening, but around day 5, that really starts to down-regulate, because the body's brilliant. The body's like, I don't want to be using these beautiful amino acids from muscle cells and other really potentially necessary, organelles and things of that nature if we have fatty acids. So that is why somebody can go through 40 days, on a water fast, and do it very safely. It's really late stages where the body will need to, if it starts to run out of these fatty acids, will start to actually incorporate more and more vital organs, and that is at the end stage, which is more starvation. And we don't, many people think that they're going to be in starvation after a week of fasting, but actually it usually takes months and months. So yeah, depending upon the person. So those are the physiological shifts that happen when a person goes through a water fast.
So is your goal at True North when you're taking a patient off of a water fast and you're putting them on a plant-based diet, do you want them to continue like a predominantly like ketone-based diet going forward? Or what do you recommend after they're finished and they're going out back into their life, into society? What do you kind of advise them when they're going back?
Yeah, we do not promote like a more ketogenic type of diet at True North. It's not the way that our bodies are set up to be, and we really are glucose burning machines. I mean, that is how we have set up to function in society. And actually, one of the things that we try to do when people are coming off of a water fast, we do transition them really slowly to make sure that they don't go into like a refeeding syndrome or anything that is really dangerous. If they're coming in with autoimmune cases, we want to make sure that we're preventing flares after the water fast. What we really, really support is a really well-balanced whole food plant-based diet. So usually our refeeding looks like we'll get people into juices. They're mostly vegetable with maybe a little bit of fruit in there. And that just starts the digestive process going. So one of the powers, right? One of the powers of water fasting is not only that you get out of the body's way and you allow for autophagy to happen. So you're allowing for these cells to deep clean. You're allowing different kinds of hormones to be rebalanced. You're allowing digestion to really be slowed or down-regulated to the point where all that energy, I think the statistic is like we use around 80% of our energy just for digestion alone. So when we are not doing that, that energy actually can go in towards healing the body, right? Healing different systems of the body. So when we start the refeeding process, what we're trying to do is we're trying to slowly reactivate that digestive system as well. So we're going to get people into juices first. Then we go into raw, which, depending upon the person and depending upon the digestive status of the person, we can either do raw or like really well steamed foods. Then we move them into, higher caloric density foods like legumes, grains, and then nuts and seeds finally. So it's like this really slow progression just to get them ready. Our optimal diet, it changes with everybody depending upon what disease state that they are coming in with or what their goals are post-fast too. But on a whole, or typically, we really want the majority of it to be vegetables, right? Like really beautiful, like leafy vegetables, maybe even starchy vegetables, and then a smaller portion of and smaller than the beets and the avocado. So
Nice, very nice. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful diet, and it's simple and perfect. It's how we're meant to eat.
Yeah,
how we're meant to eat in the long run. So I'm sure a lot of people are thinking this, like they're hearing you, they're getting excited, and they're thinking, hey, why don't I just do a water fast at home? So I want you to kind of let us know, like, why is it important to undergo a medically important water fast, and why should a physician be overseeing people when they choose to go on a fast? Because I think a lot of people get excited and they're like, yeah, I'm just going to do it. So tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So yeah, and I love this question. That I feel like within the last year, probably since the term intermittent fasting has come out, we have had a lot of people reach out to True North because of the fact that they've actually started to do fasting on their own and gotten themselves into quite a bit of trouble. So it seems easy enough. It's like, well, I'm just gonna stop eating. Like I'm going to a water fast. But there are very, very specific nuances which can actually create more harm than good in the body. So it really is important to be medically supervised. And these are just some of the things that I hear about and I actually talk to many of these patients, right? So these are some of the things. So one is, what happens is if you aren't prepping, like I said, if you don't do a food prep to get yourself ready for this extreme state of enhanced detoxification and healing, what can happen is people can actually start to have intense vomiting, intense, nausea. People can have really, really horrible, like different kinds of pain patterns that come up that they don't know how to deal with. And just a little bit of vomiting is not that big of a deal, but sometimes people get into hypothermia and they don't know what to do, so they end up in the hospital because they actually get dehydrated a lot of times. Another thing is during a water fast. So what we do at True North, we actually really, when you come to True North, you're going to see one of our attending physicians. And so you're going to be seen head to toe, like you're going to have a full intake, you're going to have a full physical exam, you're going to have blood work done to make sure you're safe to water fast. So some conditions, just so you can understand it, if you're on multiple medications, you need to be weaning you off of that, or you need to be weaning yourself off of it with your doctor at home to make sure that you can water fast without any medications, because it's just not safe. So that's where the risk, overpowers the benefits of water fasting. The only one that we allow really is thyroid, and we usually really accurately modify that during a water fast. So, but then on top of it, if somebody say has, arrhythmia or AFib, it might not be a candidate for water fasting. So if somebody has diabetes type 1, they're not a candidate for water fasting. Most chronic kidney cases, like chronic kidney disease, they're not a candidate. So these are things that we could pick up and look at lab work and see where a person is. Extreme anemia, many times is not a candidate for water fasting. So, so this is the thing. These are the things that we're really monitoring and watching out for, because in some cases, doing a juice cleanse is going to be super more impactful than even doing a water fast. So that's what happens when you first come in. When you're there, or when you're here at True North, what we then do is that we will monitor you twice a day. So we're taking vitals in the morning, we're doing vitals at night, we're really assessing a person. People have 24 hours, 7 days a week access to a online, on-site person that is there. We are always on call, just to make sure if somebody is in trouble. And then also we're testing along the way. We're doing urine tests. We're doing once a week. We're doing blood work once a week. There are many cases, I will be honest, there are many cases where the person feels great and they're like, I have no symptoms. They're not having any of the detox symptoms, but then their lab work comes back and we start to see severe, maybe kidney hypofunctioning, or we start to see electrolytes start to drop. And they're taking in enough water. They're not taking in too much water. They're doing all the right things, but we start to see these shifts because that's where the body's at. And so we can make accurate modifications to their program in those situations so they don't end up in trouble. Because when I talk to people who do water fasting outside of medically supervised facility, that's what I see. People end up in the hospital and they're like, I don't get it. Like, why did I end up in the hospital? Or why am I feeling so lousy? Or how do I get out of this state? And I don't know whether or not this is normal or not. And when you have people that have been doing this, for years or for decades even, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can also assess whether this is a flare and this is something that really needs to be stopped right then and there, or it's a healing crisis where the person is just going to get much better and going to get improvement from it. So that's the difference, and that's what's so important about medical supervision.
Right. Yeah. I think it's that support too. And then understanding where they are, doing all those exams and being able to monitor it it's incredibly important for everyone starting it. So I think it's a great way to motivate people, but also to tell them that somebody needs to be watching it the whole way through too.
And also, just to say, like, also the emotional, mental support as well. So, there is a level where I've had many patients say, I probably, right, and I'm going to say this really loosely, but they're like, I probably could have done this in my own, like a shorter one, like a 5-day one. But the fact that they had a medical team around that actually knew the nuances and the ins and outs of what would come up or how to treat and how to interact, at certain stages, was so much more relaxing for them, because you need to be in a relaxing state. The body, it's so much harder for the body to heal if you're not in a true relaxed state. And that's what True North offers, is that, you're going to be in a state where you're so taken care of, and so monitored, and it's a beautiful facility that you are able to get the highest level of healing that you
Right. And that's so nice too, just to be able to talk to somebody about what's going on, because things change in your body, and feeling comfortable with that during that time too. Because there's a lot of changes on the way, I'm sure, going through it. So tell me about some of the top health benefits that you have seen through this process, through the fasting process.
Yeah. There's so many. In the last, I really do. I feel so blessed, because I can honestly say that pretty much every day I witness some sort of even a miracle, happen, where people are just like, I never ever thought I would have my health back, or I never thought I could walk again, or I never thought I could take a full breath, or whatever it is. And so what I have seen, so as I kind of mentioned briefly, there's so many amazing effects that the water fasting can do. It can, it helps the ability to reset the microbiome. It has the ability resting the digestive system. It's on a cellular level, autophagy is happening. So you're cellular, like that, so we're helping with the receptor sites, so people can actually improve insulin sensitivity, and now start to reverse, insulin resistance and diabetes. So I've seen people start to reverse those kind of chronic diseases. I see it pretty much every day, where people are able to reverse hypertension. I see. I just had a patient, and it was just phenomenal. He had rheumatoid arthritis. He was on multiple medications, and literally at the end of her fast, she had no pain. And before, she wasn't even able to move her fingers. At the end, I remember seeing her, and I was like, oh my gosh, are you moving your fingers? And she's like, yeah, I totally forgot. She's like, I totally forgot even I had stiffness there, so it's just really exciting. We've had a case, with case studies where we've had follicular lymphoma, where lymph nodes have, regressed, and so remission. We've seen, oh my God, there's so many things. Skin issues like eczema, psoriasis. I have one patient that I'm following now, and he just continues every day. You should see it. It's like the psoriasis has just it's continually disappearing as he moves from fasting into more of the whole food plant-based diet as well. So yeah, it's just really profound, really, really, really profound. And even interestingly enough, even individuals that have been put into say nursing homes, or individuals that have thought that they've lost their cognitive ability, just with even switching them into a whole food plant-based diet, like no sunflower oil, we see people come alive. We see people start to do that word recall, or start to have a little bit more energy, or be able to function more normally in life. And that's really exciting. And so they don't even need to be water fasting. Many people can get such profound effects just from food, or even a juice cleanse. So.
Right, I love that. I love to hear all of that too. It sounds amazing that you get to see all of these things every day too, just from teaching the foundations.
Absolutely.
So do you have any specific research studies that you want to share with us about water fasting in general? I know you guys are putting together a lot of them right now as we speak. Do you have any favorite ones, or anything that you like to use?
Yeah, just this to set the stage too. You can look on .com. So that's True North's website. It has an amazing. We actually have a whole now research arm that we are really building. So, like I said, it's so exciting. And on the website, you can actually access all the research that we've already done, and also links to coming that we're going to be doing. But some of my favorites probably, done a couple on just hypertension, and it's profound to see even 2 weeks. I mean, this is on average in 2 weeks, how people can really reverse their hypertension. And this is from being even years on medications, and never thinking that have the ability to be off of meds and be normal. Those are probably those are some of the more profound ones. Like I said, it's not even the research, but there's an amazing case study that we published about follicular lymphoma. It was a 41-year-old female that was able to go into remission with just a 21-day water fast, and she's still in remission after a year. Actually, it's more than a year now. One of the other amazing case studies that we have is a woman who's had like 17 years of chronic headaches, and after 2 40-day water fasts, she was basically cured of her headaches. So that was one of the most amazing case studies. I really do love the work of Walter Longo. He is an amazing researcher out of Italy, and he's also in Southern California. And he's the one that really kind of, I think, put intermittent fasting or fasting into the public's eye, and he has the longevity diet out, but he has a couple of different research papers that really show the benefits of even just doing shortened fasts, like even anywhere from 3 to 4 days, and he's showing just the profound effects on how fasting alone can contribute to longevity overall. And so he gets really specific into the cellular mechanisms involved in that. So that's really powerful. And those are some of my favorite ones. And you could find him on PubMed as well. So those are probably the ones that I always, and actually he has one too, where now even in the oncology world, people are recognizing how powerful it is to be in this ketosis state for general healing, and also for allowing chemotherapy to work. So we now know that if you are able to fast before, even maybe during, and then after chemotherapy, there's actually oncologists now that are actually recommending that, which is super, super exciting. So,
Yeah.
so those are probably the research studies that I just go to and just really recommend people looking into if they're really interested. But the website is really powerful if you want to just look at what we have. So
I think that's a great resource to get people started and to read. I want to read more too, definitely, about it. You're getting me excited.
It's exciting. We're it's been around for centuries and centuries, but now we're finally understanding, what we used to do, probably more than we do today in today's society. What the power is behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, having that science to show what it's actually doing, that cultures and monks and different people have been doing this for thousands and thousands of years, and
yeah.
now we're understanding it more. So I want to talk about, besides fasting, you have this amazing background in acupuncture, oriental medicine, and naturopathic medicine. So tell us how you incorporate all of this knowledge into your patients, and how you use that to help them in different areas too.
Yeah, actually, great question. So while fasting, I'll start here. While water fasting is super, super powerful, what I will say, and this is what I always kind of preface my lectures on, is that water fasting is not a cure-all. And so what I mean about that is that there is this amazing, and I wish I had it, but there's an amazing image. It's a health continuum kind of image, which is on one side you have chronic disease, right? So that can be anything: cancer, autoimmune, diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease. And then in the middle, you have this comfort zone, right? Or like perceived comfort zone. And then you work towards optimal health, right? This is like freedom. I mean, when you think about it, one of my taglines, right, is like, health is true wealth. And I love that, because it really is. If you think about it, there is nothing in the world that feels as good, right? Or tastes as good, or that is as good as what healthy feels like. When you feel so good and you're sleeping well and you have bounds of energy and you can think appropriately and you have good memory and you're reacting well to situations and you don't have pain in the body, you can walk, you can, all this stuff. That is optimal. That's optimal health. Many times what we're doing is we are fluctuating between this entire continuum, and it is a continuum. At any stage, we can be working towards chronic disease. At any stage, we can be working towards optimal health. Water fasting, it's not a cure-all, because remember, you can't water fast for the rest of your life. I mean, it's a very specific treatment modality that we utilize to get people going towards optimal health. But it really is what people are doing post water fast. And the reason I set that stage is because while somebody is in water fasting, I utilize some of the things that I have done, like acupuncture. So I can do acupressure points in a water fasting situation where I can help relieve some of these quote unquote side effects or detox symptoms that come up. I do cranial sacral therapy as well. So we can help patients, especially with traumatic brain injury, really go through the fast a little bit easier. And just on a note, we have massage therapists, we have chiropractors, we have people who do, different kinds of therapies that can help support someone during a water fast. With me afterwards, there are people, that come out of a water fast, they do feel better. They do get improvement, but they're not in that optimal health. They're working towards that, but they're still even in that spectrum of like disease state. And so that's where naturopathic medicine comes into play. And that's where acupuncture comes into play. And it's about supporting a person. So, here's just an example. In a case of, let's say, autoimmune case, like rheumatoid arthritis, potentially, it's not just about saying, hey, you have autoimmune. It's about, well, why did this happen in your body? Like what caused it? And I'm always searching and always going deep into, let's find out what's the underlying cause. Is it just stress? Is it maybe multiple viral infections? Is it mold exposure? Is it toxicants? There's so many things. And sometimes it's a variety of each that could, then maybe create a little bit of dysbiosis in the gut. Maybe there is increased intestinal permeability. So there are these different stages. Water fasting is amazing because it gets the person one level up and maybe allows them this beautiful sense of decreased symptom, but then there's a lot of support that goes into play. So that's where my training comes in, where I can offer, botanical medicine. Because like I said, there's a time and a place for everything. We can talk about diet. How do we change up your lifestyle where you're sleeping more? You are maybe less stressed, or how you're responding right to stressors a little bit better. How do we build a strong sense of community if that's what's missing in your life? How do I help? I help patients not find their sense of purpose, but also start to recognize how beautiful and important it is for you to wake up loving your life, loving where you are and finding things that are going to give you that sense of joy, right? It's not, what I do is not necessarily difficult. It's more about like really helping people understand that they have this amazing ability to heal themselves. And it's about giving them like basically the tools in my toolbox and helping them kind of steer and steer them in the right direction. And sometimes I use supplements. Sometimes I even do hormone replacement, so it just depends upon where they are and what they need in order to get to that level of optimal health. So that's how I utilize what I've learned with what I'm doing currently. So.
Right. And that's so great too, because you have so many amazing tools and you can use them here and there and figure out and adjust as you go. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's great. Well, thank you very much for sharing all of this amazing information today. I think it's an amazing resource for people to learn from, to hear about, and tell us how we can get a hold of you, how we can find you, how our listeners can find your websites or.
I love it. I love talking with you. Yeah, and I love talking about this because I feel like it really is something that we need in today's society. And I feel like it's so exciting that we're doing research and we're going to be, I think, hitting larger groups of people. But you can reach me, so you can definitely reach me through True North. So healthpromoting.com. I do, you can reach the front desk and get consultations. And actually I see people on not only an inpatient, but we also have an outpatient as well. So if you're local to Santa Rosa or local to California, I do see a lot of patients in that setting. I just launched my website. Woohoo! So excited. That was a long time coming. So drchillaveress.com. So drchillaveress.com. You can find me on Twitter. I'm not as prolific on Twitter. And then I'm also on Instagram. So that's Csilla Veress, NDLAC. So those are the main kind of avenues I'm using right now for social media. So
perfect.
Sorry, Facebook too, of course. Csilla Veress. I keep forgetting about that one. Yeah.
Yes, the one that we're launching on here
know,
too,
right?
but we're having everywhere else too.
Truth be told, I try to have a healthy balance with social media. So it's hard in today's society, but I'm trying to really have a really good awareness around it, I guess you could say.
It's all about the balance. It's balancing everything there. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us today, and I'm glad everybody can find different ways to reach you, and we'll make sure to list that all when we post this interview as well.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, you too.